a lot of times in these really dense rock mixes, especially if it started on Pro Tools, there'll be an octave somewhere in the upper mid range that is not necessarily wrong. It's just got so much energy that when the song gets really loud, or when certain frequencies, usually in the lead vocal or occasionally a guitar, when that happens, I can use the suppressor just to take a little bit down. And if you set it, if you kind of mess around with it, you can set it so that it doesn't really dig into the drums and stuff. Some of the things that I really like about the plugin is, I don't know if this feature is unique to this plugin, but the fact that you can hear the material outside of the band that you want to affect is really cool. And also the fact that the filters are super steep if you want them to do that. So what you can do is you can say, the reason I did this is to help identify the area that you want to affect. And so one of the things that you can do to be sure that you sort of zero in on the right area is to listen to the stuff, not only the stuff that's contained within the area that you're trying to affect, but the area outside of it. And sometimes what I'll do is, if you can get it to sound, it's not going to sound totally normal with this really weird little narrow notch in there, but if you can get it to sound where it doesn't sound totally weird with that completely missing, you know that it's going to, so this is the entire mix. And this is the mix without that band. So, like, well, I don't know if I really need that little thing right there.
So you're suppressing that band.
And what it tends to do on some of these,
especially a dense mix.
Well, on these really, I don't use it too much on the real open songwriter kind of stuff, but I have. I recently used it to take out some weird bass resonances, and it was this guy had this beautiful sounding record, and it was upright on a lot of it, and you say, well, why wouldn't you want to do it with regular EQ? Because I mean, you could do a little narrow notch, because the bass, in the chord progression, the bass only played that note where it's like 60 dB hot at 72 hertz once each cycle of the progression. So you get to keep the hand drum and all the stuff that had that same energy down there. This is another thing that this thing does really, really well that not too many boxes have, and that is when you engage the auto, what it is, it's a floating threshold. So you theoretically you get the same degree of attenuation that you've dialed in here, because it's having a threshold float. So you could have really like a really bad S on a really quiet passage, and theoretically you could futz with it until you get about the same amount
on a
of
two mix, which is really interesting.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm using it for. The ability to hear the inside and the outside of the affected band, and plus change the slope of the filter and get super narrow or not narrow this is the only it's the only plugin that I know that actually does that. I'm so into it. Sometimes I've actually used as many as 2 or 3 in a row to kind of create my own multi-band. So like the first one does one band, and then the next one in the chain does, and I don't know what the technical aspect of what they're doing programming wise, but that just tells me that it's actually, the code writing is clean enough so that you can do that, because in a mastering capacity, you're hearing, at least in a room like this, I can really tell what's going on. And there are other plugins that I've used that do a certain thing that I like what they're doing, but I can actually hear it even when it's not engaged, and I go ahead and make a decision to sort of accept whatever it's doing to the signal in order to get what I want to do to it. But I find with this, I really can't hear it engaged. I mean, the programming is really transparent. They've made sure that when it's not doing anything, it's really not touching the signal. And when it does something, it's still leaving, the signal's passing through like really unprocessed sounding, at least to my ear.